Here we're going to be working on some linear equations solving for x. Let's go ahead by simplifying this equation by distributing this 2 to both terms on the inside of the parentheses. So my first distribution is just going to give me 2x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is going to be 10. And then I'll bring down the rest of this, 3x plus 1. I usually like to draw myself a balance beam, and then I am trying to get x by itself, but I have two x's. So I'm going to go ahead and move the smaller x, and I'm going to remove that by doing the opposite order of operations. So I'm going to do, this is a positive 2x, I'm going to do a negative 2x. That goes and crosses out. And then I can bring down my 10, bring this down, that'll just become 1x, and bring down my plus 1. At this point, again, I am trying to get the x alone. So the things that are bothering the x is this one right here and this one right here. So I'm going to work my way in towards the x. I'm going to take on this guy by doing the opposite operation. So I'm going to go -1 and -1. This will cross out, and it will give me 9 equals 1x. I'm actually done. But to prove that we can remove this 1, we could just divide by 1. These guys will cross out, and I'll get x equals 9. So that is my final answer for question number 1. Let's move on to question number 2. So for question number 2 here, we don't have any parentheses, so we can just draw our balance beam right away and choose which term I want to move. I want these guys to be solved for themselves. I'm going to move the smaller one, so that's the -2. So I'm going to do the opposite of -2, which is positive 2y and positive 2y. This side crosses out, and I just get a 5y minus 4 equals 6. Now, just like last time, I want this y, this term by itself, who's bothering it, the 5 and the -4. So let's work our way in towards y and take the guy who's farther away first. So let's tackle this -4. So the opposite of -4 is going to be positive 4. This crosses out, and I get 5y equals 10. That's going to work out nicely for me to get rid of this 5 by doing the opposite. That 5 is multiplying the y, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by 5, and this will cross out, and I get y equals 2. There's my final answer. Now we have a little bit more challenging questions, a little bit more fun questions down here. Again, I have some distribution. I'm going to actually double distribute this, which will be fun. So I'll take this 3 into the n, and I will get 3n. Then I will take the 3 into the 2. 3 times 2 is a positive 6. I bring down my equals, and now I have to bring the 9 to the 6. 9 times 6 is 54, I believe. Oops. 54. And 9 times n, or negative n, is just going to be negative 9n. Now, I draw my balance beam, and I'm going to pick the smaller n to move. Again, I want n by itself, but I have n on both sides of my equation, so I'm going to have to move one of them. I'm going to move this guy because he's a negative. That's the smaller number. I'm going to go with a positive. Positive 9n, positive 9n, and we can cross those out, and I will get 3 plus 9 is going to be 12. N plus 6 equals 54. Now, let's get the n by itself. Thankfully, I only have n on one side, the 12 and the 6 are bothering it, I could divide by 12, divide by 12, divide by 12, divide by 12, but this doesn't seem, this is going to turn into a half, and I'm not even sure if this comes out nice. So I'm going to go ahead and attack the 6 first, because I can see that's going to be very easy for me to do a -6 on both sides. So this crosses out. I get 12n equals, and then 58 take away 6 will be 48. And now my last step to get n by itself, I need to remove the 2. The 2 is multiplying the n, so the opposite of multiplication is divide. So I'll divide both sides. That crosses out, and I get n equals 4. That's my answer. Here we have another distribute that's a double distribute. This one has a -4 that's getting distributed, so that should be kind of fun. So I'm going to have a -4 into my r, and I'll have -4r. I'm going to write a capital because it's hard for me to do a lowercase r. -4 times 2 is going to give me a -8 equals, and then 4 times 2, that's going to give me a +8. And then 4 times -2, that'll give me another -8r. Now, let's draw our balance beam. Again, we have r on both sides. I have an r here and an r here. I want to move the one that's smaller. Is -4 smaller than -8? No. -8 is the smaller number because it's a bigger negative. So I'm going to eliminate this -8 term. So I'm going to go plus 8r plus 8r. I'm going to cross these out, and I will get right here a -4 and a +8. That's the same thing as 8 minus 4. So that'll be a 4r. Maybe I'll write that a little better. 4r minus 8 equals 8. This is our next step. We're going to try and get this r by itself. The 4 is bothering it, and the 8 is bothering it. Here, I could divide every term by 4 since 8 is divisible by 4 on both sides here. That would work out nicely. But I like the pattern I've been following where I just take out the thing that's adding or subtracting from my term. So I'm going to go +8 and +8 both sides. Because it's a -8, I like to do the opposite. This crosses out, and I will get 4r equals 16. Last step, get the r by itself. How is the r attached to the 4? They are multiplying. So the opposite operation is going to be divide. I'll divide both sides by 4. That guy crosses out, and I get r equals 4. Oops. There we go. All right. Now come some really fun questions, because the next two have some fractions. Now, fractions can be really scary or really fun. This is the same question twice, so I'm going to show you how to deal with this in 2 different ways. If you really dislike fractions, you can always get rid of fractions by multiplying everything by the thing that's on the bottom of the fraction. So I find the biggest denominator, that would be 9. And I'm going to multiply this entire side by 9. So I'm going to say times 9, and this entire side is going to get multiplied by 9 as well. So now it's going to be 9 over 9, parentheses 2m minus 16, equals 9 over 3, parentheses 2m plus 4. These guys just cross out. So that becomes a 1. Those just cross out. And 9 divided by 3 is a 3. So I get to rewrite this side as just 1, 2m minus 16 equals 3, 2m plus 4. And now we're right back to where we are. Do we really need to distribute a 1? Multiplying by 1 doesn't really do anything, so I'm just going to have 2m minus 16 here. And then here, multiplying by 3 will give me 3 times 2 is 6. Don't forget your m. And then 3 times 4 is going to give me a 12. Now, at this point, I like to draw my balance beam, and I look for my m's. I have m's on both sides, so I'm going to look for the smaller one. The smaller one is that one. So I'm going to move the 2m by doing the opposite. So negative 2m minus 2m. This guy will cross out. And I will have negative 16 equals 4m plus 12. Now I want my m by itself. Who's bothering that? The 4 and the 12. I could technically divide by 4. That will work. If I divide by 4, all of these terms get divided by 4 nicely, and that'll cross out. Or I could subtract the 12. I think I'm going to divide by 4 just to show you that it works. So these guys cross out. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. These cross out to 1. So I'm just going to write my m. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. And now all I have to do is remove this guy. So minus 3, and cross these two out. And I will get m equals negative 7. And there's my answer. Now, we're going to do this same exact problem right here. And instead of getting rid of the fractions, we're just going to suck it up and deal with the fractions. It's not going to be too bad. So I'm going to take 1/9 times 2, and that will give me 2 over 9m. And then 1/9 times 16, that will give me 16, negative 16 over 9 equals, and then I distribute this one in here. So I'd have 2/3 m and distribute this one, and I would then have a plus 4/3. Now, all of these seem like they're going to end up to be repeating numbers. So that is kind of annoying. So one of the things I can do is the same thing that I did over here. I can multiply every term by one of the denominator terms to get rid of it. So I'm going to choose to go after the bigger one right here. So I'm going to multiply every term by 9. So I'm going to say times 9, times 9, times 9, times 9. These guys cross out, they cross out, and I just get 2m minus 16 equals, and then here I can do 9 times 2, that would be 18, or I could do 9 divided by 3 first, and that would give me 3. So let's go ahead and do the simpler one. So let's do 9 divided by 3 is 3 times 2m, and 9 divided by 3 is 3 times 4. We simplify this side, I would get a 6m and a 12. And then we copy everything else down. Now you notice this and this are exactly the same. So now everything I do from here on out would be the same steps. So it doesn't matter if I eliminate my fractions first or if I distribute the fractions, the same step that gets rid of them, this is the magic step, is multiplying every term by the largest denominator. All right. Now on to question 16. Ooh, this looks like a fun one. Nice and long. We have several distributions. I think the distribution that's going to get us is this distribution. What exactly are you distributing here? You're distributing a secret -1. But let's get to that in a second. So let's distribute our 12 first. So 12 times 5, I believe, is 60. 12 times 2 is going to be 24y. And then I'll have a 4y. And let's distribute this negative. So that -1 times 6 will give me a -6. And that -1 times a -9 will give me a +9y. Draw my balance beam. Now here's the thing. I have y here, here, and here. Okay? So I'm first going to combine these two y's before I start matching my y's across the equal sign. So first, let's go ahead and combine these two terms, my like terms. So I'm going to combine these two terms. 4 plus 9 will give me 13. Bring everything else down just to keep my equation nice and clean. And let's go ahead and move the smaller of my two y's. So now I have two terms with y. I'm going to move the smaller one. So I'm going to go the opposite of this 13, which would be -13y, -13y. This guy crosses out. And I'll have 60 come down. 24 take away 11, or 24 take away 13, I believe will be 11y equals -6. Now, let's go ahead. I could, like before, get rid of this 11 by dividing by 11, dividing by 11, dividing by 11. I think that would give me some really nasty decimals that I don't understand and I don't know. I want to avoid that. So instead of getting rid of this term, I'm going to get rid of this term. How easy is it to get rid of the 60? I'll just go -60. That's not bad at all. Now I have two negatives over here, and they're just combining, so they're going to combine their powers and become a bigger negative, -66. They're not multiplying, they don't change sign. So I have 11y equals -66. And then I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides, get rid of that 11. This is nicer than the last time I tried to divide because this actually turns out to be a nice number. 66 divided by 11 will be 6. So I have y equals a -6. And there's my answer.